Today we have a very exciting announcement to make. We have a press release that went out to say that the first set of products have been recognized for their inclusion of immunization-related capabilities under the HIMSS Immunization Integration Program. And these products are the Cerner FirstNet and PowerChart. From Electronic Services Technologies, the product is the Physicians and Practitioners Office Assistant. From Glenwood Systems, we have Glace EMR. From Healthcare Exchange LLC, we have the Vaccinator. And from Qvera, we have the Qvera Interface Engine. So altogether, these products represent more than 25% of the EHR market. So we are starting out with a bang, and we'll explain to you what that means very soon. So I want to introduce our panel. My name is Joyce Sensmeyer. I'm the Vice President of Informatics at HIMSS, and I'm involved with the Immunization Integration Program as a content advisor. Our first panelist is Warren Williams. He's the Branch Chief Immunization Information Systems Support Branch at the National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Diseases at the Center of Disease Control, CDC. Next we have Floyd Eisenberg, who is the Vice President of Quality and Regulation at Chickasaw Health Consulting. Next we have Timothy Bennett, he's from Drummond. Timothy Bennett is the Testing Program Manager at the Drummond Group. And next we have Mike Warner from Cerner Corporation. And we have Nick Mead from Healthcare Exchange LLC. And then last but not least, we have Ron Shapiro from Qvera. So this session is going to be a bit interactive, but we're going to start with Warren Williams, who can describe for us how did we get to this big announcement today? What is this program about, and the history and where we're headed? So Warren?
Thank you, Joyce. It's great to be here. I appreciate everybody coming. This program, I think, represents a key milestone for a lot of the integration of clinical medicine and public health. And so we're really excited to see it sort of come to fruition today, and hope that it really draws a lot of attention to this important goal that we have of sort of integrating immunization-related workflows and capacities and making sure that they can report to immunization information systems. So this has been a long-standing project we've been working on for a little over 4 years, I think. We've done a lot of feasibility testing and planning. We've talked to all sorts of different types of providers and public health groups and EMR vendors and partner organizations about how can we be effective in building a great immunization-focused program. So we've come up with a whole series of testing approaches, of protocols. We went through a long time of testing and pilot testing and more pilot testing, it felt like. So today I think it really represents some real excitement that we have in being able to announce the vendors that have gone through this program and gotten acknowledged for their contributions to improving immunization and immunization functionalities and capacities, and so we're just thrilled about that and excited for what it does to our provider community, for EHR vendors, and for public health. And we're hoping that we see a lot of value with that, according to all of the different stakeholders that are involved with this. So I think this today just represents that sort of kickoff milestone that we've had, and we're really thrilled to be here and sort of see this milestone hit this key point of integrating clinical medicine and public health, and so we're excited to see that happen. So thanks, Joyce.
Thank you, Warren. So we talked about the vendors that have been participating in this, and we know it was challenging but very, we feel, rewarding process. But maybe we could hear from you, Mike, to say why did your company choose to participate in this program, and what do you see as the benefits?
So we decided to participate in the program because we've been interoperating vaccinations to registries for a long time, and there's always the specification, moving the data, but there's been a real lack of just looking at the whole workflow. So we wanted to hold ourselves to a higher level of standard and make sure that the workflow was smooth and efficient for the physician. And as a byproduct of a better workflow, we can capture more accurate, more higher quality of data. And it helps get compliance with the offices to actually fill out the information. So if it's quick and efficient, it's easy, it's going to automatically improve the quality of that data that we get submitted. So it's a lot easier than to go out and train our physicians and train the nurses to actually use the capabilities. So that's why we were excited about the program. And one of the benefits is we actually found some things that were less than perfect. So we did have to put a little bit of IP development into actually improving the workflow. And we would never have found some of these issues had we just done kind of the normal run-of-the-mill data testing. It really took that whole workflow testing to identify some of these situations where we needed to improve our system.
Thank you. Ron, do you want to add any comments from your perspective?
Sure. So Cuvera wanted to participate in this because, like Cerner, we have customers all across the country that are interacting with the registries that have been brought up over these past few years. And we wanted to ensure that those customers were getting the greatest ROI on their investment in this technology. We saw this immunization integration program as a great way to provide some consistency across the registries and to ensure that, as Mike said, that we had a full coverage of the data that was being transferred, not just up to the registries, but being brought in from the registries so that the patient at the point of care, the healthcare providers had the most up-to-date information available to them. In addition, like I said, I think that this type of a program will go a long way to ensuring that those standards that we use are used in a consistent and uniform way, which will help, which only serves to help the ability to bring additional customers and registries on in a much smoother fashion at a much lower cost.
Thank you. And Nick, did you want to add any comments from the vaccinator? No? They were very eloquent in their description. Thank you. So Warren, I'm going to bring it back to you. If you could talk a little bit more about the key elements of the CDC's goal for this program, why you felt it was important to fund it initially and to keep it going.
Yeah, I think we were interested in, as some of the vendors have said, we were interested in really looking at a more comprehensive approach to the program, not just the sort of conformance with transaction challenges that are out there, but also with the usability pieces of it and the workflow and software features and functions pieces of the whole immunization experience. So we really want to take a little bit broader view of how that works, because obviously for us, the immunization piece is important, and we want to make sure that it's done as efficiently as possible for providers and for patients getting the vaccines. And so by sort of trying to take a little bit broader look at it, to look at these other components of the program, we think we sort of address some of those other concerns that are out there that we were hearing about, some of the challenges with usability stuff, workflow challenges. Of course, integrating with the immunization registries is always a challenge, but that's sort of why we wanted to take a slightly broader look to it, to sort of expand our view and hopefully make all of this work a little bit more efficiently across at least the immunization ecosphere that we're very interested in.
Thank you. We really appreciate that commitment very much. And my background's nursing, dealing with pediatric population, the adult population. We came through a terrible flu season this year, and I think we're all more mindful of the importance of vaccinations. So for this program to increase the information that's available wherever you need it is critical.
Yeah, trying to think about that whole perspective, and certainly the HIMSS and Chickasaw Health has been a great partner in making this happen. So we're really thrilled about the announcement today and what it means. So
great, thank you.
Thank you.
So Floyd Eisenberg, I'm going to put you on the spot here. You are really our technical lead in this and helping to work with developing the specifications, the capabilities that are described and the workflow, and helping to stand up the technical advisory panel. Would you give us a little bit more about what it really, what is at the core, what is the engine of this program?
So thank you, Joyce. And so the engine was really very helpful to me to listen to the vendors of saying why this is important, because that's really what drove a lot of the passion behind getting this done. And we were first looking at the data quality of information going back and forth with the registry and the clinical side is not what it should be. But to get to data quality, we have to address how is it captured, how do you deal with the patient, the whole workflow. So we had an excellent advisory panel early on, and we've continued with a panel including vendors, including providers, including public health folks, including professional societies, some consumer input, and also some nursing, school nursing, and pharmaceutical input. When I say pharmaceutical, pharmacy, the retail clinic input about everything that happens and how this all occurs and how to get the right data. And our original panel was really strong about saying if we're going to improve things, we have to look at the entire workflow. We have to know who is the patient, is it the right one? We have to know what's the current vaccine history. So we want to query the vaccine, get information back, reconcile what's there. We want to make the right decisions with decision support. We want to make sure we have the right inventory, give the right vaccine to the right person, get that information back out to the registry, handle adverse reactions when they occur, be able to look at a cohort of people and get the right people in to get vaccinated. And we want patients to have their own access. So I think I described all 8 of our sub-workflows, but it's the whole picture. And unless you look at the whole picture, you can potentially miss pieces by just evaluating conformance with the standard. You can say all the pieces are there in the right fields, but you want to make sure the right pieces are there. So to make sure of that, we had to address workflow. And we've had excellent feedback on that. It did have to run through a series of tests. What we have done is we've based all of our tests off of the same NIST tools that are used for ONC certification. So for vendors who are testing and have some level of experience with those tools, we weren't providing a whole new set of tools for them to do testing on. But it wasn't just conformance. We needed to make sure we had a proctor looking at what showed up in the screen to make sure it met what we're looking for. And we learned a lot, and we learned a lot from you early adopters, and thank you for that, because that taught us a lot about how to make the test easier for you and to make sure we got the output that we were looking for.
Yeah. Thank you, Floyd. And it's the challenging and difficult part of the technical side to get this to work. Thank you. So, Tim, do you want to talk a little bit about what it takes to go through the testing process, working with the Drummond Group and going from application to recognition?
Yeah, sure. So it does start with application, and HIMSS has a website there where you can go and start your application process. I should probably mention it's free to not only apply but also to test because of the CDC is the program that they're running. So that makes it easy to get started. And once you do that, then the Drummond Group gets involved, gets you signed up for the Google groups, and you get access to the test tool and the test cases, and then you start your process of just preparing for your test. And then once you're ready, we'll get you on the calendar, we'll watch you demonstrate compliance through a WebEx or a GoToMeeting interface where you share your screen, watch you go through all the test cases, demonstrate compliance to all the requirements. And then when you're successful with that, then you'll get your summary report, which is also good for taken to your ONC meaningful use test and getting credit for the immunization integration part of that program. So you don't have to do any retesting at that point. If there are non-compliances identified during your test event, there's opportunities for you to mitigate those and then come back and retest them and eventually demonstrate compliance. So in that sense, it's just a matter of just signing up and doing the work and going through the test, and that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Tim. And we now are adding to our very long stage here, Ty Faulkner, who is from Electronic Services Technologies. Thank you for joining us, Ty. And your colleagues here talked a little bit about what they felt the benefits of the program were for their company and why they participated. So maybe you could add your comments to that, if you wouldn't mind.
Thank you, Joyce. And to any small business like we are in Detroit, and we have a very urban population, projects like this really help us to kind of play with the big boys, to be part of our Detroit ecosystem. And so for us, it was more of a training effort, and we learned the hard way. It's not easy, but we tried to make it easy. And our current solution is now ready to go. We're Drummond certified, and that gives us the ability now to secure more contracts in our local market. The learning for us with the applications were that it's pretty simple. I mean, don't think it's like 2.0 was, if you guys remember that experience. So I think as a small business leader, my tech guys, my developers, Mr. Joe Williams, who actually developed the whole thing, and he's the founder of the company, couldn't make it today, found the system, the way that the process of certification was set up to be ready-made for small businesses. So I encourage you, any of you out there, to take on the task. Don't delay. This is kind of where the future is.
Okay, thank you. Great remarks. So Warren, I wonder if you could give us some kind of summary remarks on how this relates to the ONC certification program for their health IT certification.
Yeah, as Tim said, it's ONC, after sort of reviewing the protocols and approaches that we developed, was interested in giving recognition to alternate programs, and so they took a pretty exhaustive look at the approach that we did here, and lots of back and forth to explain things, and sort of just gave us an acknowledgement that this would also be an acceptable way to meet ONC certification, as well as sort of looking at some of the immunization specific functions that we were interested in, and so we think it's a nice pairing or complement of the program that ONC has started. So we were excited about that, and certainly we didn't think originally that would happen, but it sort of evolved sort of organically through the years, and it seems to be a good fit, and it's nice to be able to go through one program and sort of get two types of recognition. So
excellent.
It's been great.
Thank you. Floyd, anything from your perspective that you'd like to add as a summary statement?
Definitely. First of all, I'd like to apologize for not calling out the assistance of some of the key people that helped us do this. Lori Forquette, who worked very closely with Rod Snellick and the NIST team to make sure all the data were correct and that they matched all the requirements for the ONC certification, which helped us get to that level of recognized alternate test method. And to Janet Marchabroda for all her help in working with HIMSS and HIMSS as well to help push this program forward. I think that what I've learned from this is not only a lot about the workflow, but because of the program and the fact that we addressed usability. So if you look at the IIP website, you'll see examples of how to think about usability around reconciliation of immunization data, which is a little bit different than reconciliation of medication, and also forecasting, data quality, and inventory. And what surprised me is not just that that was helpful to some of the vendors that are here now, and we've heard from them, but I'm also hearing others are using that to help improve the usability of their products for the same kinds of efforts, and we encourage them all to come and test. But it's been actually a very useful program for learning for me, and I think from what I'm hearing from vendors and others, and especially working with the folks at CDC, Kafayat Adini and Warren Williams, has been really a very exciting program and a good collaboration.
Thank you, Floyd. And, any other comments from our other panelists that you want to make?
Yeah, I think this is a great start to starting to advance and really begin just solidifying interoperability pieces of it. So instead of just looking at the raw data and how it gets from point A to point B, but looking at how it gets generated and how it actually flows into those pieces of interoperable content that then we move around. So very exciting, and it'll be fun to watch how these concepts with this program we start seeing other examples of it in our interoperable industry, and we start solving some of the harder problems, right? Some of the consistent implementation of the standards, and looking at the efficiencies, and looking at how the clinical users actually use, view, and generate the data then. So that's when we're going to start getting everybody not just moving data, but actually using the data that they send and receive back.
Thank you, Mike. Ron?
Yes, I'd just like to encourage anyone else out there that hasn't participated in this program by telling you that if you have done the meaningful use certification, and if you're already submitting to 2 or more registries, the additional work, there was no additional work for Qvera to be able to pass these tests. Those 8 use cases that Floyd mentioned, each of those use cases were already implemented in various degrees across the many registries across the country. And while that functionality was all there, don't get me wrong, this program is very comprehensive in making sure that all of your T's are crossed and all of your I's are dotted. But aside from that, if you're already submitting to registry, I would encourage you to go ahead and complete this testing program, because it's not going to take a lot of extra work to do so, but it will just ensure that we have that consistency and the correct data at the correct time.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, everybody. And I will throw down the gauntlet. So next year, let's have a use case demonstration on the immunization integration program. And all of the companies and products that have been recognized can come through and show the industry what they've accomplished. I think that would be a great result of this. From the HIMSS perspective, it's been wonderful to be a partner, a part of this. We really appreciate the CDC's funding of the program. There is no cost to testing, so I mean that really only comes because the CDC has taken that on. But HIMSS is very committed to the sustainability of this program, so you won't see it going away. And we look forward to working with Floyd and team and Warren and Kafayat from CDC, who's in the audience. Kafayat Denny, she is one of the managers over there. So we are now happy to take any questions that you might have from the audience, and appreciate your being here today. We have some microphones on either side, so would love to hear your thoughts.
So you mentioned certification for the vendors. What about certification for the registries so that they can actually handle the data that we're going to send them?
Yeah.
I guess
Warren
I'm
or
already
Floyd,
might,
yeah.
so I can take that one. Yeah, we get this question a lot. It's sort of one end of the seesaw that we're working on was what we're doing and talked about here today with the sort of the EHR side, but we have a lot of work that we're also doing with our registry community to help make sure that the registries are in a position to be able to do the messaging and other pieces of that transactional flow. So we've been working very closely with our partner organization, the American Immunization Registry Association, to do a very thorough and intensive conformance testing around a variety of all of those message types that have to go back and forth to make all of that happen. We're also looking at some other things to improve that connection as far as onboarding best practices to make sure that as physicians and provider groups come on board to do data reporting, that we can have some sense of best practice and standards for that. We work a lot with NIST to make sure the tooling is consistent, so both ends of that spectrum, our seesaw, are balanced. We know there's some challenges with registries in getting the data in there, but that's just part of it that we're trying to work with. There are some policy challenges that we also have to address, and sometimes you can't always get around that, so there may be some legitimate reasons why those policy differences are there. But we really got a lot of the other side of the equation to work with our registry and registry communities to work on the registry side of that equation. So that's been going on pretty good while also, as far as the number of years that we've been investing in trying to do that. So I think we're really beginning to see some good conformance between the two programs coming together. And this program helps us identify some real challenges that exist, and at a detail level that lets us be able to take action and figure out what's going on. So sometimes if we hear about something that's just a one-time situation, we're not quite sure if it's systematic enough, but the formality of this program really helps us identify what those big picture challenges are, and we can identify those and get them fixed. And Floyd and the various technical groups that have been working on this have identified a couple over the past few years of this that have helped us move forward to have tighter conformance on best practice documents or implementation guides and technical guidance documents to help make that work a little bit better. So, did that answer your question? Yeah.
I think Floyd
If I
might
could
want to
just
add
add
a
a little
comment.
bit. So while what Lauren's talking about is it's not just there are two different programs, one to look at the registry side and one the EHRs. We actually are collaborating. So if we have questions that come up from the EHR side, we have not been shy about sharing those with the ERA folks, and they have been very helpful in helping us understand on the EHR evaluation side why certain things are needed and why certain things that we may feel need better description can be described better. So just some examples is one of our testers, and one of the people in your organizations asked, what do you want us to put in for a responsible party? So we asked, and they said, it's not really clear in the standard in HL7. So the next version will be clear, because we identified, yes, there needs to be a standard. It's not just what one practice thinks or one registry thinks. What does the meaning of the protection indicator mean, and when do you use it, and how do you figure it out? And better description in the guide will help with that as well. So they're just two minor examples, but we have actually at every 3 times a year at the HL7 meetings, we always get together, and we're having even more collaborative discussions now. So the input from the vendors who test and the ones who comment, we get a lot of good collaboration for both sides, and hopefully keep bring them more together.
Yes.
Yeah, good afternoon. So I have a kind of multiple questions here. So if facilities are already successfully electronically submitting immunizations to their states, what does this additionally offer them? Are they going to now have to, how do we get that data back for those facilities that want to look at that versus the state? Where is ARA in all of this? Where's a national registry, states, next to each other? So how does this look like in the future, and how is all that, why would a facility already successfully submitting also do this? And how do they access that data when it's already in their system as a legal health record? They're already looking at the state as well, and then also looking at this. I went to the breakfast last year, and I was very intrigued, and I submitted it to our agency. It's like, we need to look at this, but there's just a lot of questions.
So I think I heard everything, but I might not have gotten everything. So we'll try to address that. So one of the things that I think you can benefit from doing this if you're already electronically reporting is, as Floyd mentioned, there's other pieces of this program to look at, making sure that the workflow piece of it works well, and so that's one area to think about also, making sure it interacts well with the provider workflows. So that's something that this program also offers, and the other piece of the usability components of it are sort of other two pieces of that puzzle to look at. So there's sort of transaction conformance stuff. If you're already doing that, great, that's exciting. There are other two pieces of it to think about, workflow and usability pieces that a program like this can help. How does it look in the future? I think we'll be looking at continual improvement initiatives, as we uncover things that are not right or need clarification. That's a real benefit of this, to help on both sides, and really the collaboration has been strong, and I think we'll see future opportunities where it will get better, and hopefully it'll address all three of those pieces, both transactional as well as usability and workflow, and to make that data beneficial from, once it goes up to the registry, and then getting that query back so that information can also be consumed. I would see we'd also be able to get better information about how to do the right types of cohort reports that providers often have to do, like different types of assessment reports could be one example of something to grow into in the future, or making sure that other pieces of inventory control are working and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of potential avenues to get even more detailed and make sure that all the other pieces of this workflow and immunization scenario can be addressed, and do so in a way that looks at least those three main components, maybe even more in the future.
So since you were here last year and now you're here this year, we would love for you to come back next year and see if we've answered some of those questions. Okay, thank you. Other questions? No? Okay, well, if there...
I'd like to just add another comment.
Oh, Floyd?
So, you heard a lot about testing and making sure and getting vendors interested in what their benefit is out of testing. There's another side of this program, because when we went through all the workflows, there are actually 47 capabilities that it talks about. We don't test them all, partly because some of them are a little more advanced, and our initial analysis looking at what the current industry does support without raising the bar so high that nobody could pass. But there are also areas where there's not clear agreement between the way the clinical side looks at an issue and the public health side looks at it. So the guidance that we publish as well, that comes out on the HIMSS IIP website, we update once a year. It should be updated pretty soon, within a month. That also provides clarity to clinicians. What does this mean to you, this requirement? What can you do, even if we're not testing it, or if we are? What can the registry side do? What should the vendors look at in considering this? How can we work better together? So we look for comment on that as well, because that helps drive future of this program to make it even more useful, working between public health and clinical. It's not just testing, it's also the guidance that comes with it.
Thank you, Floyd. Any other comments? Well, there is more information about the program on our website, HIMSSinnovationcenter.org or com. HIMSSinnovationcenter.com, I believe. Org? Okay. Org? Okay, thank you. So if you want to take a look there for the slides, the application, the testing specifications, and then the logos of our recognized companies will be up there as well, along with the press release that went out today. So please remain if you have more questions that you want to ask privately, and thank you again for attending. We'll close the session.